Hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name's StepsBasic and welcome back to my community show. Man, that didn't sound scary, that sounded kind of mellow and jazzy. But anyway, the first week of Spooktober is over and now we're moving into my community show. And I couldn't think of anything better to talk about than the truly scariest thing of all, evil. So, imagine yourself standing there, confronted by the most horrifying evil creature that you've ever known. What is it that you picture? What is it that you define as evil? Evil is, quite frankly put, not just the absence of good, but the thwarting of. Something that acts directly against good. Evil is such a, I want to say subjective term, but there are definitely some objective ways of looking at what evil is. I.e., we can all agree that a person who delights in the torture of humans and animals alike could definitely be qualified as evil. But what else could qualify as evil? We don't live in a world of monsters. We don't live in a world of magic, of creatures that will escape the known, what we understand. At least we don't have any proof thereof, apart from some cheesy sci-fi shows. Interestingly enough, I have read, I have watched, I've seen and encountered so many good horror stories revolving around monsters and evil and creatures of unknown origin. And yet, one of my favorite stories of evil was one of Stephen King's, called The Mist. Yes, there were monsters in there, but they weren't the monsters that most people thought. See, when you look at the movie or the story of The Mist, you see these creatures destroying humanity, killing off any man, woman, or child that they came in contact with. But is that evil or instinctual? And can something be instinctually evil? However, if you look a little closer at the story, you'll see the true evil was never the monsters. The true evil was indeed the humans. From the overzealous, over-religious lady and her cult followers, you can see the true evil of humanity showing through. Abuse of power, abuse of fear, and the subjugation of mankind. We can all pretty much agree that that's pretty evil. The interesting aspect of that story in and of itself is that it shows the juxtaposition of humanity versus the unknown creatures. Whereas if you look at how the creatures react, they don't react with sentience, so to speak. From the scene where the creatures have laid eggs in the bodies of the soldiers and it just bursts out, the spider creatures, to the scenes where people are ripped to shreds, leaving their bloodied carcasses all over the place. This isn't the act of seeking out and destroying. This is the act of killing what gets in your way. Now, yes, we can obviously say that if you act with the foreknowledge that you're going to kill somebody, with no other justification other than your own selfish desires, we can say that that is evil, in a way. But then we look at the humans. The one lady especially who decided that she alone spoke for God. She alone had his best interests at heart. Was okay banishing people to their certain doom. Was she evil? Now, I would definitely say yes. Because not only was she abusing God's name, God's goodwill, God's virtue, etc., She was abusing the weak-minded. She was abusing the fearful and turning them to her own evil aims. Remember, just because you speak for good doesn't mean you are good. This again brings us back to instinctual versus sentient evil. Now, one would say that a wolf is evil, right? One could say that a wolf is evil because it will kill things. It will kill small children. It will kill chickens. It will kill your livestock. But it's acting out of necessity. It needs food, say, especially in a harsh situation when the wolf doesn't have food. Now, particularly, a wolf won't attack a human unless it's starving and needs the meat. Same with most animals in the wild. Most animals in the wild will avoid humans, instead choosing to prey on something that they can kill. Wild animals, much like myself, and quite a few other humans I might add, have recognized that there is no certainty when it comes to humanity. You could stumble upon an easy-to-kill human. You could stumble upon a human who will delight in torturing you. Because unfortunately the greatest evil in our world is mankind. Now I'm speaking in generality, because mankind does do a lot of good. But in my opinion, the only species in this planet that is actually capable of evil are humans. And that is because, unlike the animals we share our planet with, we make the conscious choice to do bad things. And we make these choices to do these bad things out of selfish desires. Now, what can cause a person to become evil? What can cause evil to begin? Well, much like defining what evil is, this is a bit of a tenuous subject. How can one truly become evil? Are we born that way? Do we develop our evil tendencies? Dog just flopped over on the camera again. Now, people like myself who suffer from mental disorders, problems with their brain, can do evil things. There have been quite a number of stories that worried me about my own bipolar disorder. Stories of mothers who put their children into the oven. Mothers who drown their children in the pool. But they would always claim that it was for the kids' own good. So is this a conscious effort of evil? I mean, sure, the end result was evil. But did they really intend evil when they began? Now, stuff like that worries me. I know I have a pretty unstable mind. Something I fight against, mostly on a daily basis. Thoughts, dark thoughts that sneak their way into my brain. But it's something I fight against. And so do these mothers and fathers who have hurt their own children, do they fight against the same urges I fight against? The same dark thoughts that I fight against? Or do they just give in? Or do they just not recognize them for what they are? Now the mental aspect aside, because we know if your brain is imbalanced, you're going to be doing some stuff that's considered societally unacceptable, verging on evil. But what about the people who delight in it? The people who like to hurt, who like to see the pain in somebody else's eyes. Are they born that way? Is that just a mental deficiency? Or is that a residual evolutionary trait that never went away? Or are they just reacting to the world in the way they see it? In my lifetime, I've seen some horrible things. I'm an old fart. I've seen a lot of stuff. And these days, I'm seeing a lot more of the horrible stuff. And it scares me. Because what I see in the world is evil. And that sort of thing makes me worried about the fate of humankind. So it's interesting to think. I had a conversation with somebody a little while ago about learned biases. Now, in one case, you can be taught all day long but never learn. I.e., if somebody drills into your head over and over and over again that you need to hurt people, but you yourself decide that you don't want to do that. That you don't want to step on the people below you to ascend the ladder to the highest echelon of whatever business you work in. That you don't want to see people in pain. So while they can teach you all day long, you never learn it. But at the same time, a child in a foreign country, in a war-torn area, who has never been taught to hate, can see his family, his friends, his city destroyed by a bomb dropped by a defender, and learn to hate without being taught. And this child can grow up to do some pretty inhumane and even evil things. Was he always destined to be evil? Is he even evil? These are some interesting questions. Something to think about. In my opinion, yes. The greatest evil in the world is perpetrated by man. The only creatures on our planet who are capable of evil are man. Everything else is instinctual. But also the greatest good. The only things capable of good are man. So, another interesting topic, another interesting idea about evil and its origins is, of course, what happens when a human being begins to act instinctually. Of course, I'm talking about the id, the instinctual portion of our brain that establishes all the things that we know we need to do, i.e., we need to eat, we need to void our bowels, we need to reproduce. All of the instinctual things that we have grown parts of our brain to inhibit, to learn how to control. I.e., we know we need to eat, but we also know we can go to the grocery store and pick up something to eat. But what happens if we just instinctually start eating things to the point of, i.e., killing other creatures for our food, going out there and just killing? Now, hunting isn't evil, especially if it's done right. I would argue that sport hunting can be pretty considered evil, but hunting for the right reasons could be a good thing. To contain the population, make sure it doesn't get out of control. To feed people who don't have the money to eat. Stuff like that. Okay, so eating. That's an instinctual act. That when done properly is not evil. And done for the right reasons isn't evil. But gluttony is considered a sin, isn't it? So if you were to, say, eat without stopping, you get to be a glutton. Is that evil? Should you have shared that food? Now, arguably, I would say if you have food to share and you don't share, then that is considered an evil act. Now, if you have food to share for now, but you won't later, then that is not evil. That's preparing. There's a difference. Fine line. Of course, remember, all my opinions are subjective. Protection. Now, self-defense in itself is not evil, is it? I, for one, am trained in many different forms of self-defense, from firearm to fist. But remember, self-defense is defense, not attack. So if you go out to seek a fight, to kill, without defending yourself, but in the idea of pre-defending yourself, that could easily be considered evil because you're punishing someone for something they haven't done. Well, I think we've tapped my philosophy well dry today. I think I could talk a little bit more about it, but honestly, we're getting into the a lot of the what if section. But if there's something else you would like to hear me talk about for next week, be sure to leave that in the comment section down below. And thank you guys so much for joining me for tonight's community show. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you did, please go and poke that like button for me. If you'd like to, of course, you can comment down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can, when I can, if I can. You know all that jazz. And tune in next time as we talk about something else for the Spooktober community shows. And until then, good night.